Mama, welcome to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Gibbs, and this podcast exists to help scholarly mamas like you to achieve your life and academic goals without sacrificing what matters most. Here, we're changing the overwhelm, juggle, struggle narrative around what it means to be a mama on an academic journey to one of empowerment, fulfillment, and purposeful success. So how do we successfully navigate these journeys? Well, first, we need the space to embrace this unique blend. Let's begin by saying yes to creating a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside, because that's when we truly become purposefully whole. So get ready for the most non-traditional, unconventional, and revolutionary approach to PhD motherhood, because one thing I have learned over my many years of experience on this journey is that if you want something different, you have to do something different. But you must be brave enough to think differently first. So, Mama, are you in? Fabulous! Let's begin. These are our journeys of becoming. Hey Mama, welcome back to the podcast. So lovely to have you here as always. So I want to address something really real and raw in today's episode, because I think sometimes it's quite easy to get caught up in all of the success stories and the titles at the end and the big graduation celebrations. I know it's graduation season and you're seeing a lot of that potentially online and hearing about people talking about their graduations and the I did it stories. And I think that's great. Just a year ago, July last year, I was celebrating my PhD graduation, right? I was attending my ceremony. I'd finished my PhD the year before, but I waited to have a summer graduation. And so I attended the ceremony last July. And as that time comes around again, of course, I'm going to celebrate. Of course, I'm excited. Of course, I am giving thanks for reaching the end of this journey. And, my life has changed so much in a year. Like a lot can change in a year. And I'll talk about that in a different episode. But I want to address the real and raw reality of being in a position where you're questioning everything, wondering if this journey is even worth it, wondering if you're even cut out for this, wondering if this is something that you even want anymore, right? That urge to quit, the urge to walk away. Now, I am no stranger to this urge. I am no stranger to this. I have experienced that feeling of overwhelm and just wanting to quit and just being done with it. And so many thoughts of, what if I just stopped? What if I just quit? What if I just walked away from this? My life would be so much easier. I'm so over this now. I am so done. And I had so many of those moments because it's a hard journey. It's not an easy thing to navigate a PhD journey and juggle real life alongside that. And the reality of having to work, the reality of having to deal with the challenges of motherhood, the ups and downs and highs and lows of motherhood. Those challenges are real. These feelings of overwhelm and being done, they are valid feelings. And I want to kind of touch on that. And I'm not here to tell you to keep going no matter what. I'm not here to force you into making any big decisions, because I think that these kind of decisions are very individual, but also they really need time to marinate and they need to be informed and supported. These are not the kind of decisions that you can just make from listening to a podcast. And that's not my goal here. I'm not trying to tell you to keep going or to walk away today. But I think if you were in that valley of decision, what this episode aims to do is to help you to pause. Let's pause together and let's kind of talk through some points that will hopefully give you a little bit of clarity as to whether this is actually something that you wish to do. So this is really the podcast episode that I wish that I had when I was in that space of feeling like I am so over this. Why am I even bothering with this PhD? And so if you are in that place, or if you're close to that place, which I'm sure most of us experience at some point or the other on this journey, then this episode is for you. So I've entitled it Before You Quit. And these are just some points for you to think about if you are at this point. If you're at this juncture, you're at this crossroad, these are some of the things that hopefully will give you a bit of clarity. So the first thing is, remember your why. Reflect back to the moment you chose to even apply to do this PhD or apply for this funding to do this PhD. Where was the spark? What lit you up? Was it to make a difference? Was it to create future opportunities for yourself? Was it to be a role model for others? Like, what was that spark that lit you up when you made this original decision to pursue this PhD? For many of us, that spark is really, really personal. Sometimes it's about breaking cycles. We're the first in our families to even begin a journey like this. And so we want to break those cycles. We want to make space for other mamas, other women. We want to prove to ourselves that we can. Sometimes that's it. Sometimes it's just a matter of actually, you know what? I want to prove to myself that I can do this. I can do the hard. I can navigate this journey as well. The reason why I talk about remembering your why is really about stripping away the noise that gets in the way when things are overwhelming and things feel like they're too much. Stripping away that noise and remembering what made you say yes to this path, what made you even want to begin this, and maybe even write that down somewhere visible. And I think the important thing to remember here is that I can say for sure that sometimes the why may evolve. Like, you are growing on this journey. You're not the same person today that you were when you made the decision to begin this journey. But reconnecting with that fundamental, original why can help you get clarity on whether this is still a path that you see yourself completing. Is this still giving you that spark? Is it still lighting you up in the same way? And I think for me, like, I wanted to do this PhD because I recognized that I was at the point in my career where if I didn't do it, I potentially would have fewer options to advance. And I think that it was important that I felt like I was growing. I felt like I was growing professionally as well. And this for me was one way of me being able to do that. I also felt like I wanted to make a contribution to clinical practice, and I felt like this was one way of being able to do that. And I think from the perspective of being a mother, I think it was also the fact that I wanted my kids to see a role model in me and to see that I'm not afraid to do hard things, and to see that they too can dream big and aim high if they want to, if they wish to. And also that you can do things that nobody else in the family has done. You can be a pathfinder. You can be a trendsetter. You can be the first if you wish to be, right? And so for them to see that reflected in me and their dad in different ways, but for them to see that fire reflected in us, in the things that we do, in the choices that we make, that was part of my why. It was deeper than just a title or a degree. It was deeper than that. And so maybe for you it's the same. Maybe for you it's something deeper, something that really pushed you, knowing how hard it was going to be. That did not put you off. You still made that decision to embark on this journey. Reconnect with that. What was that why? Why are you here? So when we forget the why, what I've found is that the work just really feels like a hard slog, like a grind. And reconnecting with the why, even though it doesn't remove the hard, because it's still going to be a hard journey, right? It doesn't remove the hard, but it helps make the hard feel worth it. It helps the hard feel doable. It helps the the hard feel less impossible. And so really it comes down to reconnecting with your why. Okay, I'm going to carry on to point number 2, and that really is about knowing your purpose. So for me, purpose goes deeper than titles and accolades and degrees. Like, purpose is so much deeper than that. And for me, it's about, who am I becoming on this journey? Through this journey, I should say. Through this journey, who am I becoming, right? That is your window into what your purpose or purposes might be. And I believe that knowing your purpose and really getting clear on that can ignite that motivation that really is eroded or feels eroded when you are feeling in that valley of, should I quit this PhD? So even when things feel stale, even when you feel that you're not moving forward, even when you feel there's no progress, even when you're coming back from maternity leave and everything feels new again and you just think, why am I doing this? Just knowing really, what is the purpose? What is this journey teaching me? Who am I becoming on this journey? And how can I reconnect with that purpose? Speaking about purpose, I know we've talked about the why earlier, and they are connected, but purpose needs to be separated from goals, right? We all have goals. This PhD itself is a goal, and being able to finish that is a goal. And even though the goal may be to finish your PhD, your purpose is the reason why that goal matters. What kind of woman do you want to become through this PhD journey? How is this journey shaping you? Why does it matter for you to finish your PhD? What will that do for you internally to know that you've reached the finish line? What would achieving the goal mean for you on a deeper level? So that's purpose, right? So the goal has to be separated from the purpose. The goal is to finish. The purpose is, why does it matter? Why does that matter that I finish? So the process, again, and the journey has to be separated from the outputs. Remember, I talked about outputs and outcome. Outputs are the title, the thesis, the graduation, the just having a degree on the wall. Like, those are outputs. Publishing a paper, receiving a prize for something. These are all outputs. But when we reflect and we go deeper and we reflect on, actually, what is the outcome? What changed about you through this journey? What about this journey is molding you, developing you, helping you to grow, helping you to develop critical thinking skills, helping you to advocate for yourself, helping you to become more resilient? That's outcome. That's you becoming. That's you on a journey of becoming. And so even at the point where I wanted to give up and I wanted to walk away, I hadn't finished. And yes, I hadn't finished my PhD. As you know, this blog, this podcast, all of this began before I even finished my PhD. So if you want to go back to all of those original episodes, you can, right? I hadn't finished and there were some hard times, but I noticed that I was showing up differently. I noticed that I was seeing the world differently. I was seeing this journey differently. I was changing my perspective on what this journey meant. And so in doing so, I was knowing and reconnecting with my purpose. That was growth for me. It wasn't just about the titles and the accolades anymore. It wasn't just about getting the next step or reaching the next step in my career. It wasn't just that. It was the person that I was becoming on this journey. And I have shared that journey with you through my blog, through my podcast. We've been on this journey together. You've seen some of the growth, right? You haven't seen all of it because some of it is just internal and some of it is offline. But you've seen some glimpses of that growth. That's me reconnecting with my purpose. That's me becoming. And you've had insights that I've shared from that journey. And so really focusing on who you're becoming, separating the goal from the purpose, separating the outputs from the outcome helps you to reconnect with your purpose. And that may be one thing that can give you clarity about whether you want to quit this PhD or not. Number 3, what do you want? So this is hard. I'm not going to lie. This is a hard one because we are inundated with expectations of PhD supervisors or advisors, if you're in the US, with expectations of our partners, our spouses, with expectations of society in general, right? And I think one of the hardest things to do as a mama especially is to answer the question, what do you want? What do you want? When you strip everything back, when you remove the titles, remove the accolades, remove the prizes, remove the promotions, remove all of that and strip everything back to the bare bones. What do you actually want? What do you actually want, mama? That's a hard question to answer sometimes, because the moment we ask that question, we start to think about what other people are going to think, what should I say, what sounds good, what is expected of me, and it's never what you actually want. You have to reclaim your agency. You have to know that your wants, your needs, your desires, your dreams, they're valid, they matter, but you've buried them for so long that you don't even know what they are anymore. They could be staring you in the face and you wouldn't recognize them. Sometimes we keep going on this journey because we don't want to disappoint other people. We don't want to let our PhD supervisors down. We don't want to let our funders down. We don't want to let our friends, our family down. We don't want to disappoint anybody, right? We don't want to disappoint the community. We're the first in the family to do this. We don't want to disappoint everyone. And I get that. I get that pressure. But if nobody would be either impressed or disappointed, like if it didn't even matter what other people think, what would you choose? That is what you want. That is your answer. I remember feeling like one of the things that I had to come to grips with when I was doing my PhD was trying to separate other people's version of success and other people's vision for my life. I had to separate that from what mine was. What was my vision? What did I want to achieve? And for me, you are more than your PhD. I know that. I have so much clarity on that. No one can tell me otherwise. I am more than my PhD. I've got so much to offer this world. And when I think about not doing those things, not sharing on this podcast, not stepping into doing my purposeful work, it fills me with dread. Because this is something that I have to do. This is something that I can't just switch it off. I can't just not do it. And it's hard because there have been so many times where I've thought, you know what, just my little introverted self, I will just stay in my little corner and keep all my insights to myself. I have thought about that, but every time I'm tempted to do that, every time I'm tempted to walk away from this podcast and walk away from what I'm doing, I don't earn any money doing this podcast. I don't get anything out of doing this other than knowing that I am helping someone listening to this who is in the trenches, who is in the throes of it all, who just wants to see what is possible. And every time I think about walking away from that, I said, no, you can't do that, Michelle. You can't do that. This is purposeful work. You're not doing this for financial reward. You're doing this because it matters. You're doing this because there's somebody listening to this who is on the verge of quitting their PhD. And they don't want to quit, but they feel that there's no other option. They feel like it doesn't matter. They feel like no one cares. I care. I care enough to spend hours of my time every single week preparing this podcast and getting nothing back in return because I know it matters. And that is why I'm here. That is why I show up every single week. That is why, since this podcast has gone live, even before I finished my PhD, 2 years ago now, more than 2 years, we haven't missed a week on this podcast. Even if there's a reflective replay in between, whatever it is, I show up here because it matters. I show up here because you matter to me. Maybe we haven't met in person. Maybe we don't know each other. You probably feel like you know me. I've heard people say that. Oh my gosh, I feel like I really know you, Michelle. And that's great. But know that I show up here because you matter. But you also have to show up because it matters to you. What do you want? And by the way, you are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to say, Michelle, it mattered so much to me before, but it doesn't matter to me anymore. That's fine. But it has to be your decision. It can't just be the overwhelmed talking or the burnout talking. Get clear on what you want. And that will help you decide if quitting your PhD is the right decision for you. Because only you will know that. The fourth point is to do a cost-benefit analysis. I think this is really key to get practical. I know a lot of the things that we've talked about feel a little bit less tangible than this, but really getting practical, getting a pen and paper and writing down what are the costs, what are the benefits of continuing on this journey. Be practical. Think about time, think about energy, think about finances, think about mental or emotional tolls, think about what you will gain from this. What will you gain from completing this journey? Think about childcare, think about sleep, finances, all the things. Just get really practical and weigh up the pros and the cons of continuing on this journey. What would it cost you professionally or emotionally if you continued? What would it cost you professionally or emotionally if you quit? Which one are you happy to live with? Put it on paper, get serious about it, because seeing that clearly can turn this emotional fog into clarity. If you had to take a look at all these pros and cons, can you do another year of this? Can you continue for another semester? And sometimes that's what it takes. Like, I know sometimes we think about the big grand finale at the end and the finish line, but sometimes it's just getting through the next year or the next term or the next month even. Can you do that? Can you push that decision forward? I realize that I don't make sound decisions when I'm tired, burnt out, overwhelmed. I try my best not to make life-changing decisions when I'm feeling like that, because I need to get rid of the fog so that I can have clarity on what I really need to do in that moment. But either way, doing a cost-benefit analysis will help you to weigh up which one of these options are you really prepared to live with. What would finishing help me to do? Not just on paper, not just because I've got a degree on my wall or something, but in terms of confidence, in terms of doors that may open, in terms of legacy. Do that cost benefits analysis, because it really helps you to see clearly on paper what this journey really means to you and what you're prepared to live without if needs be. So do that cost benefit analysis. So the fifth point that I wanted to share is around finding role models. Finding role models is so important if you are on the verge of potentially quitting your PhD, because I think what happens is when we are really overwhelmed, most people tend to withdraw. We tend to isolate ourselves, and we don't look outward, we look inward. And looking inward is important. And yes, of course, you want to have that introspection, but finding role models. And I think the next 3 points are really about pushing ourselves outward a bit. When we are feeling that overwhelm and feeling that pressure and want to quit and walk away, instead of just withdrawing inward, we look outward. We challenge ourselves to look outward. So the first thing we look outward for is role models. Looking for women, particularly mums, who have finished their PhDs. What did they do differently? And that's one of the reasons why I've been trying to find as many mums who have done this to come on the podcast and share their journeys. One, because it helps you to see that you're not alone. And two, it helps you to see what's possible. And so look around for those role models. Their stories are going to make your goals feel more doable, more possible, more achievable. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to go and invent some new secret strategy about how to do this, because other people have done it. Other people have done this and they're willing to share their strategies and how they navigated this journey. Learn from them. But you've got to connect with them. You've got to connect and find these role models. Who has done what you want to do? Who has achieved this goal in a way that resonates with you, in a way that actually you want to emulate as well? Who has done it on their terms and done it well? If you haven't seen a mom like you finish a PhD, obviously it's going to be hard for you to believe that is even possible. So that's why you need to seek out those stories, seek out those individuals to be role models, have a chat with them, have an informal interview with them. I've had people on my journey who have really inspired me, mentors, friends, people that I've seen achieve things online. And really watching them gave me the fuel I needed to keep going. I've had so many DMs from so many of you who I don't even know sometimes who's listening to this podcast. I have no idea, right? And it warms my heart when people come to me in my DMs and say, I was able to keep going. Thank you so much for inspiring me. You've been such an inspiration. And those messages really warm my heart, not because it makes me feel good about myself, but because it makes me realize that there's impact even when I don't realize it, that there's a purpose and a reason for sharing my journey, for doing this podcast or sharing online. And I think it reminds me to keep going with this as well, to keep going with this. And so finding role models, if I've been a role model to you, great, amazing. I'm so grateful that I can be a positive influence on your journey, but maybe you're a role model for someone else as well. So this is really about us connecting and really interacting with other people who are like-minded, who have been on the same journey, that we can learn from them, we can exchange ideas, we can share stories, and really just encourage each other and inspire each other to keep going. So this point really is about looking outward, finding role models who can support you on your journey and help you when you're in that valley of decision as to whether you want to finish your PhD or not. They can help motivate you to make that decision, whatever that may be. And of course, find other role models as well. Like there are people who perhaps don't even have a PhD or aren't doing a PhD, but there's something about their journey that is inspiring to you. There's something about the way they carry themselves, the way they show up in the world that reminds you that your dreams are valid, that your dreams are possible, whatever those dreams may be. Follow them, connect with them, share with them, and try and learn as much as you can from them. That's the value. That's the real power in finding role models. Number 6, again, on the same theme of looking outward and not kind of isolating in silence, join a community. Stop doing this journey alone. Academia rewards independence, but real success, especially as a mama, as a scholarly mama, comes from connection and community. So who are your people right now? Who are your people? Who are the people who will check up on you? Who are the people who care more about you and your well-being than just your titles and accolades? Who are those people? Connect with those people. Join a community that has those people in it. Having that accountability is so important. Having people to co-work with, people to write with, people to help you stay anchored. This is the purpose behind Scholarly Mamas, because you, mama, you deserve not to do this journey alone. You deserve to finish well. You deserve to finish well. And to do that, you cannot do this alone. Well, maybe you can do it alone, but it is not recommended that you do it alone. So join a community and stop suffering alone in silence. The 7th point, this is the final one, is to get a coach or a mentor, someone who gets the academic grind and the motherhood juggle. A coach can help you to think clearly, stay focused, plan next steps, even if quitting is the next step. Because there's no right or wrong here, right? You don't have to make these decisions by yourself. You deserve support that sees all of you. The academic side of you, the mama side of you, the whole you. And a coach can help you with strategy, mindset, clarity. And a mentor can offer wisdom from their own journey, the path that they've walked and succeeded. Find somebody to talk to. I've hired coaches, I've had mentors along my journey. And one thing I will always say is that it was always worth it. It was always worth me connecting with someone who can share a new strategy, challenge my mindset, help me get some clarity on where I wanted to go next. But also for those who've navigated it and shared their journey, their experiences, that has been so valuable to me. So get a coach or a mentor, find someone to support you. And so I just wanted to recap on what we've talked about today. Before you quit, pause, reflect, reconnect, reevaluate, and don't do it alone. We talked about why it's important to remember your why, know your purpose, ask for what you want, weigh up the costs and the benefits, find your people, and get the support that you need. No matter what you decide in this situation, you're not a failure. You're not letting anyone down. You're wise. You're brave. You're capable of choosing what's best for you and what's best for your family. So if you want to connect with someone who's walked this road before to help you, let's connect. Just head over to mrsmummyphd.com and let's chat. Until next time, Mama, I'm sending you lots of love and gratitude. Take care. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and if you did and you want in on this movement, please head over to mrsmummyphd.com or scholarlymamas.com. If you want to do your PhD well without sacrificing yourself or those you love dearest, then you need your hands on all the ways that we can work together to transform your journey of scholarly motherhood from one of overwhelm, disillusionment and burnout to one of scholarly joy and purposeful success. Make sure you head over to mrsmummyphd.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes. I cannot wait to work with you. Remember, Mama, these are our journeys of becoming.